All right. I do believe we're live. Hey, I'm using new tools again. So today I am doing some sewing. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking this time to record my process for making a basic dress, including both the overdress and my underdress and the underwear. Shh, ladies, don't talk about that. So what I want is to finish recording that, and then I'm going to piece it all together and present it as an info video for you guys, and I'll have myself sort of narrating over the top of it. But if you would like to follow along at home, that's a wonderful thing, and I would love you to do that. It's going to take me a few days to put it together. It might not come out till late next Tuesday. Depends on how much time I get and how much sewing I actually get done in between. So we'll see what happens. I'm willing to play with it and see what happens. I'm learning, and it seemed like a fun way to learn how to use the program and how to fade in and out and get some information to you guys at the same time. So if you're bored with sewing masks, sewing a basic gown or tunic is a great way to use up some fabric. Doesn't take a whole lot. I can, with a little bit of practice and some piecing, make a dress out of 2 yards of fabric. Now, I'm 5'2", 5'1", with shoes on, maybe 5'2". So I'm short, and that makes it a little easier for making a dress. For a tunic, easily with 2 yards, you can make a fancy knee-length tunic for most people. It's a lot of fun to do this, and it works equally well with hand sewing and with machine sewing. The first few times I made these, it took me about 8 to 10 hours of sewing to get the entire project done. But now that I've done it a few times, if I'm using the machine, I can whip off 2 tunics in a day, beginning to end, including all the hemming and seams and even the flat felling on the interior, if I use the machine. It takes me about a week to 10 days to hand sew a dress or a tunic, maybe a little less to do a tunic. And that, again, includes the neckline, the hems, the whole 9 yards. Well, 2 yards, but anyway. It's an easy pattern, and it's historically accurate. So I want to share that with you, and I'm going to share the webpage if it works. So let's see if it works. Hey, there we go. All right. So the page that you're looking at is called the Elizabethan Smock and T-Tunic Pattern Generator. And it takes a bunch of information from you, and it shares it to the universe. So, well, it doesn't share it to you, it shares it to you. So it's going to take your waist, your shoulder to wrist, around the widest part of your hand, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm just going to come back to myself here. There we go. When they say the widest part of the hand, you make a fist, because you want the end of your sleeve to fit over your hand, because otherwise you can't get it through. And you'll note, mine is actually considerably larger, and that's because I'm a kitchen wench. Let's face it, I spend a lot of time cooking, and I need to be able to do this. So, my sleeves are made to allow me to roll them up. Not everybody does that. Some people will make them fit like skinnier than that, and then they'll put buttons down the side, or ties, or lacings. And all of those are appropriate to various periods and times, and certainly from a Ren Faire point of view, they're perfectly acceptable. And you can do the same thing. My outer dress is laced down the front with spiral lacing, because I'm playing a 14th century servant woman, and so front lacing is what I'd have. And so I put this in myself. All of the little eyelets in here are hand sewn. And let me tell you, you're going to do the first one and you're going to go, God, this is going to take forever and they look horrible. But I guarantee you, by the time you finished your first dress, oh, your eyelets will be beautiful, because you do so many of them. It takes a long time. Anyway, when you are making the pattern, you go to elizabethancostume.net/smockpat, SMOCKPAT. And if you look it up, the Elizabethan smock generator on Google, it'll take you right to this site. You're just going to fill in the information, and then down at the bottom it's got a button that says generate your custom fitted smock / T-tunic pattern. And also you'll want to click whether you want a square or a keyhole neckline. And that's important because earlier period gowns have keyhole necklines. So it's kind of like a squashed circle. It's not quite an oval. It sits more forward from the shoulder standpoint, and then it has a slit. Now, you can't really see, but my underdress has a slit that goes down about 2 inches, lets my head get in, and if I were to wear it without the overdress, I could pin it closed or lace it or whatever I would like. But because I'm wearing it underneath and it doesn't, you can't see my cleavage or anything like that, I'm good and modest, everything's covered, it's not a big problem. When you go later period in the late 1500s through the 1600s, you're looking at Tudor gowns, and they had the square necklines, and that's also something you could do. It might be easier for you, you'll think, to do a square neckline, but it's not. As hard as it might seem, the round neckline is going to be easier for you, and I will show you in the video, I promise. Anyway, if you want to play at home, you can fill that out, click on generate your custom fitted smock or T-tunic pattern, and that sucker will give you something you can print out that has like a grid on it, and the grid will show you how many inches each side is. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that and sketch it out onto butcher paper. So if you have butcher paper at home, you can use that. You can use craft paper. I've used paper bags that I've opened up, taped together into something larger and cut out. I've also, my actual favorite is to use last year's wrapping paper, you know, and especially if you've got the ones that have the 1-inch grids on the back, because it makes measuring it out really easy. And if you're buying them in January, you can get them for 99 cents for a roll, so, you know, it's cheaper than buying butcher paper sometimes. But you're going to sketch that out full size so that you have the pattern, and once you've got that, then you will put it onto your fabric, cut it out. It seems pretty simple, but like I said, in this video, I'm actually going to go over all the things you need to do to make it. What I will say to you today, though, is if you want to follow along at home and make the tunic, go and wash and dry your fabric now. Before you cut it, before you measure it, before you do anything else, go and put it in the washer, and then, if you're so inclined, into the dryer. Now, caveat on that. When I do this stuff, which is a brushed cotton or a flannel, I put it on hot wash, and I put it on hot dry, so that any shrinkage that's going to happen happens before I ever cut anything out of it. That way, especially if you're dealing with kids or fighters, you're going to end up putting those things in the wash all the time, and you don't always have time to wait for them to dry hanging on a bush, okay? So you make them washer dryer safe, and then it just doesn't matter anymore, okay? If, on the other hand, you're like me and you want to hand wash or use a delicate setting on your washer and then hang to dry, you treat it the way that you'll be treating it when you wash it eventually. However, I do suggest that your first wash be very, very hot, even if you're going to do cold wash later, because if there's going to be shrinkage, it will happen at that point. And that's when you want the shrinkage to happen, not after you cut things, because if you do that, then you will be taking your lovely dress and giving it to your kid. I've done that. Don't do that. Don't follow in my footsteps. So, go wash and dry your fabric. And let me say, if you're making your first outfit and you, like I was, are afraid to cut into the fabric, go out to your local swap shop or the secondhand store and pick up some dirt cheap old sheets. Okay, get a plain color or get a pattern that looks, you know, like this, that could pass, and use that. I was less afraid of cutting up old bed sheets, flat sheets, to make a dress than fabric that I had gone out and purchased. And it gave me a little bit of confidence. Before that, I used to break into a cold sweat every time I was supposed to be cutting something, and it just drove me nuts. Okay. Once everything is washed and dried, you need to iron it all. It might be the only time you ever iron your stuff, but it is time to iron it because you don't want to cut until all of your fabric is flat. And you will see why. If you are going to play along at home, I will try and at least come and talk to you about the setup and the basics and the tools that you need tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes. All right? I'm going to let you go. You guys have fun, and I'm going to go start sewing.